look at this room. Okay, bear with me because I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring some information for you today. I was asked to talk about how to stay focused in your business. With everything that Nathan just talked about, who's going for a bonus? Right? I mean, we have so many amazing tools that For Life gives us. I was asked to talk about dedication. How do you stay dedicated in the ups and the downs? You know, there's a lot of ups, and then there's those downs. And the magic happens in those downs, I promise. And then we're going to talk about prioritize, but I thought the best place to start, with your permission, can I share a little of my story? So I found this profession 11 and a half years ago. And I was one of those people that was like, yeah, no, that's like one of those pyramid things. I don't want to be involved. And I had a bitter idea of what I thought network marketing was. But in 2008, many can remember, there was a huge crash in our economy. And my husband, whom I've been with since we were in high school, we're high school sweethearts. It'll be 34 years married in January. We have 4 kids. We have 6 granddaughters. 0 grandsons yet. And my husband was a high-end Finnish contractor. He worked in Silicon Valley, had a thriving business, many employees. We did really well. But in the crash, people stopped improving their homes. He was not getting as much business as we were used to. They weren't signing big contracts. And we were having a hard time getting work. We didn't lay off the guys in time. We were taking from our savings account to make payroll. We felt responsible for them. We thought they have families, they've got bills to pay. We can't get rid of them. But to our own demise, we blew through that savings account. Times got really tight. We had children in private school at that point. We had a big California mortgage. We had expenses going out. And we got to a spot where we found ourselves in foreclosure. Now, I don't know if any of you have experienced something like that, but it is the most humbling and humiliating situation to be in. We were a victim of circumstance. It was not because of poor work ethics. I had an online boutique that was thriving. It was doing all right. It was keeping food on the table. But it wasn't enough, and we got behind, and further behind, and further behind. So much so that one of the stories that I don't ever want to forget where we came from, right? And there was a morning where all the kids were at school, and there was a group of my friends that would walk Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the neighborhood, do a power walk. And as they were walking past my home, my water was being shut off, and the valve was at the front of the street, top of the street. Shut off. And I had a 48-hour notice to pay my electric and gas bill. I'm calling my husband going, you've got to collect. Who owes us money? You have to collect. I don't know what to do. We had a sale date on our home. It was going to be June 6th, 2011. And in March of 2011, I get an invitation to a neighbor, from a neighbor. She was hosting an at-home party, kind of a pampering party. And she invited me. In fact, she invited me kind of last minute. She said, oh my gosh, people are bailing, the weather's bad, please come. I think you'll really like what you're going to learn. She never said anything about a business opportunity, which is to this day why I never tell people when I'm doing a social or a meeting that there's a business opportunity. Because had she said that, I would not have gone. I was anti. So it was on a Tuesday night. My husband was never home during the week. We lived in an area, Northern California, and he would travel on Monday, and he'd be gone until Friday to work in Silicon Valley. He left me with 4 kids and all the stuff that goes along with keeping a household, right? But this particular Tuesday night, he was home. And it was raining. The fireplace was going. The crock pot was going. Kids were doing their homework. I wasn't going to go. I was going to bail that night. I wasn't going to show up. He said, Dane, you got to go. You've got to go. You need some girl time. I was depressed. I had no money to buy whatever it was they were selling, so I didn't even want to go. And I'm like, I just don't want to go. I'm not social. There's nothing to look forward to right now. He said, get in the car, babe. Just get in the car. I'll drive you. So he did. He drove me 3 doors down. Don't laugh. It was raining. It was cold. And he knew if I didn't get in that car, I wasn't going to go. I showed up and I tried this product. And it worked. And I was like, wow. And then the presenter goes in on a business opportunity. And you know what I did? Tuned it out. I get home that night. I can't sleep. I'm thinking, she would love this. She needs this. She's griped about this kind of situation, and this is the solution. I love it. Wow. And after about 20 minutes of tossing and turning, I got up. You know, when you're busy and you're a mom and you got 4 kids and it's carpool and homework and sports and all that, sometimes my maker needs to get my attention. And sometimes it's in the middle of the night. So I got up. All night long I kept hearing, this is the answer to your prayer. You guys, I was praying for $800 to $1,000 a month. That's all we needed. To some people that sounds like a lot of money. To me, it was just going to bridge that gap. It was just going to be to make it just comfortable where we didn't have to struggle anymore. Now, Mike and I, we said we're going to be a family wherever we are. We're going to let the house go. We're not going to worry about it. We have until June 6th to find a rental. But that night, I knew, I heard in my heart, this is the answer. You need to step out on faith. You need to do it afraid, and you need to do it anyway. No excuses. So I called the rep that next morning, March 16th, 2011, and I said, can I make $800 to $1,000 doing what you do? She goes, yeah. Can I come over? I'll explain it. So she did. And then I do the whole disclaimer thing. And let me tell you something. I love it when people do this to me. Look, don't count on me to be, I said, I'm busy. I have 4 kids. My husband's never home. I have a full-time gig right now. And I had a part-time job. I was working 20 hours a week at our church for $15 an hour. That's how broke we were, right? And I said, I made all the excuses right out the gate. Now, don't count on me to make you a lot of money. I'm just going to do what I can in the nooks and crannies of time, and we'll see where it goes. Well, busy people know how to get it done, right? How many of you are busy and you know how to get it done, right? So I signed up, and I had to borrow $99 from my daughter's savings account because we had no money. And I went to work. I called people, I texted people, I'd run into moms at the school. I wouldn't shut up. In fact, if you stood long enough still in the grocery store, I was probably going to talk to you about it too. And you know what didn't bother me? You telling me no. It didn't bother me because if you said no, I was going to go to you. And if you said no, I was going to go to you, and I was going to go to you, and no did not stop me. Okay? And I got a lot of no's. And you know what that means? I got good at sharing what I needed to share. I had practice. And then I'd get a yes, and I'm like, yes! And it just put that skip in my step, and I was able to just go for the next no, and then a yes. And I got more yeses and more yeses. And I will tell you that June 1st, I had this crazy idea. I called the bank, and I said, I need an extension. Please don't foreclose on us in 5 days. I have 4 kids. We have nowhere to go. They said, okay, we'll give you a 30-day extension. Every time they give you an extension, it's a brand new foreclosure. If anybody's ever seen a foreclosure notice on the door, front door, it starts at about here and it goes all the way to about there. It's long. Anybody walking by knows exactly what's happening. It was humiliating. But you know what I did? With that 30-day extension, I went to work. And I asked people, can you do me a favor? Will you get some people over to your house and let me tell you about this product? I'll give you some goodies if you do. And I got some yeses. And then at that party, I was like, who would like to host? I'll give you some freebies. And I got party after party after party. Ladies and gentlemen, I was doing a meeting Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, 3 on a Saturday and 2 on a Sunday. No excuses. I had to save my house. I had to not uproot my children. I had a mission. I wanted my husband to stop working 80 hours a week away from home. I wanted something different. I stayed focused. And I made more money. July 1st, I called the bank and I said, I need an extension. I have 4 kids. We have nowhere to go. And this time they said, you know what? We see we've already given you an extension. We're going to give you one more. But if you are not out of that house, by August 6th, we will have a sheriff escort you out. Do you know what I did? I prayed like it was up to God. And I worked like it was up to me. So I worked more, I worked harder, I worked faster. Thank you. My husband would come home on a Friday afternoon after commuting 2.5 hours. He'd come in the door, I'd go out the door. We did this high five thing, and somehow he always managed to smack my butt out that door to go back to work. August 1st came. I called the bank. I said, where do I wire the money? From March to August, I stayed so freaking focused. I did not let anybody's opinion stop me. I'm going to tell you 2 stories that kept me going, and then I'm going to give you some nuggets on how you can get focused, stay dedicated, and prioritize yourself. I was on an airplane. Okay, so we saved the house, but we're still very behind in other things, as you can imagine, okay? So I'm on an airplane, and I'm headed to visit a friend, and I was going to do some work out there. And at that company, we had little before and after picture cards. And I'm sitting on a plane, and I always talk to people when I'm on a plane, and I always ask the question, here's a clue, okay, because everybody's going to be flying home, right? Nice to meet you. Are you going home or are you on vacation? And they'll tell me, and then I'll say, well, what do you do for a living? And they'll tell me, and I'll listen. Well, out of decency, they're going to ask me what I do. Boom, there it is. Do you know how many people I've added to my product page from an airplane? A lot, okay? So I hand this woman next to me, her husband's sitting there, I'm at the window, this before and after card. And she was all about it. Oh my gosh, my daughter would love this. And this is your contact information. This is great. Now, how does that work? And I got to explain it to her. She hands it to the husband and she says, look at this. I think I need this. Her husband looks at the card, looks at me. Well, if this works, why aren't you skinny? First of all, rude. And my quick response was, well, you should have seen me 6 months ago. That, ladies and gentlemen, would have been enough to stop somebody in their tracks. I can't do this business. I don't look the part. All that doubt, all that fear, all those lies, right? They're lies. Come in. And if we aren't prepared to fight those lies, we're never going to make it. We're never going to make it. You got to do it anyway. But here's a story that fueled me. During this time, Mike and I were still, staying very dedicated, very focused on catching up and at least get our savings account where we had something, right? We get a call from our son, who is first year in college, and he was there playing baseball. And it was about a 3.5 hour drive to go see him. But again, money was really tight and we didn't have the gas and this whole thing. Well, he was playing his first home game, and I planned on my calendar, I'm going to go. couple weeks before that game, Ryan called and he said, Mom, the team's covering my uniform and my cleats and everything for game day, but not practice cleats. And the sole from my cleat has come away. I need new cleats. He called on a day where I don't know how many bill collectors called. I don't know. It was the worst day. And I'm like, Ryan, you're going to have to suck it up. I kind of disciplined him. It was awful. It was not a proud mom moment. I said, there's nothing I can do for you right now. So just deal with what you've got. I'm sorry. I'll work on it as soon as Dad gets paid, we'll figure it out. And I forgot that day, that phone call, until I showed up at his game, his first home game. And I got there early. All I could afford to bring him was some sunflower seeds, some beef jerky, and some bubble gum. He didn't care. He was so happy to see me. And they're all practicing out there. They're not suited up for the game. They're just doing some practice. And here comes Ryan. He spots me. He comes running, so happy that Mom is able to catch a game. And as he's getting closer and closer, I notice he has silver duct tape holding his shoe together, holding his cleat together. He didn't care. He didn't say a word. He gave me a big hug. I'm so glad you're here, Mom. And I forgot he called. I didn't say a word about it. Watched his game. He was so happy I was there. When he would be in the dugout, he'd be waving. He'd be going, hi, bud. He's chewing his gum, spitting his seeds. That day, I decided never again. Never again. I drove home for 3 hours, crying out to my Maker, bawling. I had so much joy coming out because I knew we could fix this. And I had so much sadness that my kids had suffered. And here's the deal. They didn't suffer. They learned really amazing life lessons. And that day forward, I worked like nobody's business. Now, when we wired the money to the bank, I sat my husband down and I said, I think that I can make more money than you in this economy right now, but I can't do it and be a stay-at-home mom and do all these things. So what do I have to make to keep you home? And oh, by the way, I'm shutting down our online business. You see, I didn't want to be good at multiple things. I'm not letting good stand in the way of great. I wanted to be great at one thing. So I said to him, I said, can we try? I asked him, can we trade places? What would I have to make to keep you home? And he said, $12,500 a month. There's no mani-pedis, there's no Starbucks, no vacation. That keeps our kids in school, our lights on, and our mortgage paid. And in that moment, I went, oh, that's a lot. Of course, he's thinking, he's always been my biggest supporter, my biggest fan. But he's thinking, there's no way, that's a lot of money, right? And then I'm like, you know what? My mentor makes that. I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. I can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And my 12th paycheck, 12 seems to be the number. I got to Gold International Diamond in 12 months, and I retired my husband in 12 months back then. And the 12th paycheck showed up in our account online, and he hears a blood-curdling scream from the other room. He comes running in, what's wrong? And I'm hyperventilating. I'm like, look, oh my God. That check was $12,800. I stayed focused, I stayed dedicated, and I prioritized my time. So I'm like, do you know what this means? And then I got cocky and I'm like, who's running carpool? That's you. That's you. Who's cooking dinner? That's you. Who's cleaning toilets? Not me. Not me. And you know what? That man finished his contract, did not sign another one, and he came home. You guys, with a little focus, a little dedication, and intentionality, prioritize yourself. Get a calendar out. This is what I did. I am not kidding. Get a calendar out and schedule time. Do a power hour. If you don't know what a power hour is, send me well, we'll tell you what a power hour is another time. Don't blow up my inbox. That's all I'm saying. But a power hour is if all you have is an hour, spend 2 minutes doing follow-up, spend 5 minutes networking, spend 3 minutes, divide it out by 60 minutes in an hour. We all have the same hour. Are you going to watch TV? Because there's no LP in TV. Or are you going to get to work, right? And here's my best tip. If you write that on your calendar, do not cancel that appointment. Don't flake on yourself. Show up. Okay? And the other tip I want to give you, and I want to applaud you all for being here, showing up is a huge part. We say those who show up go up. Yep. So good job to you. I can tell you this. This is what I tell my team all the time. Not everybody in this room makes 6 figures a year. But I can tell you, everybody who makes 6 figures a year is in this room. They know the importance of showing up. I spent time learning my product. I spent time mastering my spiel. I practiced. No? Okay. No? Okay. When you're sitting in a restaurant and the waitress says, "Would you like a refill on your soda?" And you say no, she's not crying in a corner because you said no. She's going to the next table, That's what we have to do. No is no big deal. It's no big deal. And if it bothers you to hear no, shake it off and do it anyway. Because if you don't go for no, how are you ever going to get a yes, right? Pour into people. Invite them into your journey. You know, you heard awesome information here about social media. You want to pull, if you're going to build on social media, which I recommend you do some of that. I'm happy to do belly-to-belly business again. It feels so good. And I love connecting with people. But I built 90% of my business online using social media. Okay? Growing my network. I don't ever want to hear somebody say, "I'm too busy." That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't want to ever hear somebody say, "But I don't know anybody." How many of you have heard that 100 times? It's not about who you know. It's about the few that you do know and the few that they know and the few that they know, and those connections continue to ripple, right? So I stand before you 11 and a half years into this profession, loving the freedom of life that we have. We get to live where we want, work how we want, where we want. We don't miss anything. I missed a lot of volleyball, soccer, track meets, all the games. Mike was the cupcake dad. He knew all the juice that was, all the info from the moms in the field, right? And I felt a little left out. But for a short time, it isn't sacrificing. It's exchanging. You're not sacrificing. Well, I don't want to miss any of, little Annie's dance recital. Well, I didn't either. But if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to continue to have what you have. And it isn't until you do something different that you can live life differently. So with that, thank you for letting me share my story. Don't give up. If I can do it, you can do it.